The Deep Space Monitoring Station in Nevada was quiet that night, as it had been for the past 20 years since its construction. Mark Wilson sat at his console, sipping his third cup of coffee, while watching the usual streams of data flow across his screens. The midnight shift was always the slowest, but someone had to watch for signals from the stars. At exactly 3:17 a.m., every computer in the facility began beeping simultaneously. Mark spilled his coffee as he jumped to attention, his eyes widening at the incoming data. The signal was like nothing he'd ever seen before. Strong, clear, and definitely not natural. "This can't be right," he muttered, quickly running the standard checks for equipment malfunction. Everything was working perfectly. The signal contained repeating patterns of prime numbers, followed by what appeared to be mathematical constants: pi, the speed of light, and Planck's constant. With trembling hands, Mark reached for the red phone that connected directly to his supervisor. Within an hour, the station was buzzing with activity. Scientists and military personnel rushed in, their faces a mixture of excitement and concern. Dr. James Baker, the head of signal analysis, worked tirelessly with his team for 3 days straight. They discovered that hidden within the mathematical sequences was a complex message. The aliens had cleverly used universal constants and basic mathematics to create a language bridge. "It's a distress call," Dr. Baker announced to the emergency meeting of world leaders, conducted via secure video conference. "They're not just saying hello. They need our help." The message revealed a shocking situation. A fleet of 300 massive ships, carrying millions of refugees, was stranded in deep space. Their advanced antimatter drives had begun failing one by one, leaving them stranded between star systems. The nearest habitable world was too far to reach with their remaining power. What surprised everyone most was that these aliens, despite their clearly advanced technology, were asking humans for help. Their message included detailed technical specifications of their engines, along with their current position, approximately 4 months' travel from Earth at humanity's best possible speed. "But why us?" asked the Chinese representative during the emergency UN session. Surely there must be other, more advanced civilizations they could contact. The answer came from Professor Linda White, Earth's leading expert in theoretical propulsion systems. She stood before the assembly, her gray hair tied back in a neat bun, pointing to the technical diagrams sent by the aliens. "Their technology is different, not necessarily better," she explained. "They focused on antimatter technology, while we developed fusion drives. Their engines are more powerful, but also more complex and prone to failure. Our technology, while less advanced, might be exactly what they need." The debate raged for days. Some argued it could be a trap, others worried about the cost of a rescue mission. But as more transmissions arrived, including images of families and children aboard the stranded ships, humanity's compassion won out. The decision was made. Earth would mount the largest space rescue mission in human history. Every available ship was recalled and retrofitted for the journey. Supply chains worldwide shifted to produce the necessary materials and fuel. Captain Robert Harris stood on the bridge of the Earth's flagship, the Hope, watching as ships from every spacefaring nation gathered in Earth's orbit. Russian heavy lifters, Chinese cargo vessels, American cruisers, and European transport ships, all united under a single mission. "Never thought I'd see something like this," his first officer, Jack Thompson, remarked as they watched the fleet assemble. "Neither did anyone else," Robert replied, studying the final mission briefing. "We're about to make history. First contact, and it's us going to their rescue. Who would have thought?" As the last ships took their positions, Robert addressed the combined fleet. His words were translated into 27 Earth languages and broadcast to billions watching below. "Today, we answer a call from the stars, not as Americans, Russians, Chinese, or Europeans, but as humans. Somewhere out there, millions of beings. People with families, hopes, and dreams are counting on us. Let's show them what humanity can do." With that, the largest fleet ever assembled by humankind began its journey into deep space. As they accelerated past Mars' orbit, everyone aboard knew they were part of something unprecedented. Humanity's first mission to save an alien civilization had begun, and the universe was about to learn what humans were truly capable of. The first week of the journey tested the combined fleet in ways no one had expected. Despite months of preparation, coordinating ships from different nations proved challenging. Captain Robert watched from the bridge of the Hope as controllers worked to maintain formation. "Status report," he called out, watching as a Russian freighter drifted slightly out of position. "All ships maintaining 92% efficiency on fusion drives," Jack responded, scanning his displays. "The Chinese vessels are reporting some strain on their cooling systems, but nothing critical." The fleet moved through space like a swarm of fireflies, their fusion drives painting bright blue streaks against the darkness. They had practiced this formation countless times in simulations, but reality brought its own set of problems. Back on Earth, the situation was equally intense. Professor Linda White and her international team worked around the clock, studying the alien engine specifications. The more they learned, the more fascinating the problem became. "Look at this," she said to her colleagues, pointing at a holographic display. "Their antimatter containment system is incredibly advanced, but it's also needlessly complex. They went for pure power over reliability." Dr. Ivan Petrov, a Russian engineer, nodded in agreement. "Like building a race car without considering the need for spare parts. Very powerful, very efficient, but one small problem. And the whole thing fails." Linda finished. "Our fusion drives might be less powerful, but they're more reliable and easier to repair." The team's breakthrough came during their third week of study. They discovered a way to modify human fusion technology to work with the alien power distribution systems. The solution was surprisingly simple, something the aliens might have overlooked precisely because of their advanced technology. Meanwhile, the fleet encountered its first major challenge. A solar flare from a nearby star threatened to disrupt their carefully planned trajectory. Captain Robert received the warning from Earth just in time. "All ships, adjust course 15 degrees starboard," he commanded. "Maintain tight formation and increase shield power." The fleet moved as one, narrowly avoiding the worst of the radiation burst. It was a close call, but it proved that the different nations could work together when it mattered. The aliens continued sending regular updates. Each message revealed more about their situation. Their fleet carried not just millions of refugees, but also the last survivors of 3 different species who had shared the same star system. Their worlds had been rendered uninhabitable by a chain reaction of stellar events. "They're not just refugees," Robert explained to his crew during a briefing. "They're the last of their kind. Every ship we save isn't just carrying passengers, it's carrying the future of entire civilizations." The gravity of their mission weighed heavily on everyone. Humanity wasn't just attempting a rescue. They were trying to prevent the extinction of 3 species. 2 months into the journey, the fleet reached the halfway point. The ship's efficiency had improved as crews learned to work together. Russian engineers helped optimize Chinese cooling systems. American technicians worked with European navigators to refine their course calculations. "It's remarkable," Jack said one day, watching the crew at work. "A year ago, some of these nations weren't even on speaking terms." Robert smiled. "Nothing brings people together like a common purpose. Turns out it just had to be something bigger than our earthly disputes." The fleet's medical teams began preparing for their eventual meeting with the aliens. The messages had included basic biological data, allowing doctors to create preliminary protocols for interaction. The aliens breathed a similar atmosphere to humans, but required slightly higher oxygen levels. "We'll need to adjust our ship's environmental controls," the chief medical officer reported. "Nothing dramatic, but it needs to be precise. These beings have been in space for a long time. Their health might be fragile." As they entered the final month of their journey, anticipation built throughout the fleet. Regular updates from Earth brought news of successful tests with the modified fusion drive designs. Everything was ready for the actual rescue attempt. Robert stood at his viewing window, watching the stars streak by. "One more month," he said quietly. "One more month until we either make history or—" He left the thought unfinished. Failure wasn't an option. Too much was at stake, not just for the aliens, but for humanity itself. This mission would prove what humans could achieve when they worked together. The rescue fleet continued its journey through the darkness, carrying with it the hopes of both humanity and the stranded civilizations waiting in the void. The first sign of the alien fleet appeared on long-range sensors as a cluster of faint energy signatures. Captain Robert called for silence on the bridge as the readings were confirmed. 312 distinct signatures. Jack reported, his voice barely above a whisper. Matches exactly with their last transmission. Distance, 6 hours at current speed. The human fleet had practiced first contact protocols repeatedly, but nothing could truly prepare them for this moment. As they drew closer, the alien ships became visible to optical sensors. The sight took everyone's breath away. The vessels were enormous. The smallest was twice the size of Earth's largest ship. They formed a rough sphere in space, their silver hulls reflecting starlight. Some ships showed visible signs of damage, while others appeared to be completely dark. "All ships, maintain formation," Robert commanded. "Begin broadcasting the greeting message on all agreed frequencies." The message, carefully crafted by Earth's linguists, was simple. "We are humanity. We have come to help. Please respond." For 30 tense minutes, there was no reply. Then, suddenly, every communication screen lit up with a response. The aliens had adapted their message to match human language patterns. The alien ship's external lights activated in sequence, creating a rippling wave of illumination through their fleet. It was both a greeting and a display of coordination. Despite their failing systems, they had maintained enough power for this welcome. "Their main communication ship is requesting permission to dock," Jack announced. "They've matched our protocols exactly." Robert gave the order, and the human fleet moved into position around the alien sphere. The Hope approached the designated alien vessel, extending its universal docking collar. The engineering team had designed it based on the specifications sent in the distress call. The docking procedure took 45 minutes. Every step was performed with extreme care. When the airlock finally opened, history was made as the first alien stepped aboard a human vessel. The being was tall and slender, with iridescent skin that seemed to shift colors in the light. Its 4 eyes blinked independently, taking in every detail of the human welcoming party. Behind it, 2 others of slightly different species followed, representatives of all 3 refugee races. Robert stepped forward. "Welcome aboard the Hope. We're here to help." The translator devices worked perfectly. The lead alien's response came through clearly. "Your arrival defies our calculations. We did not expect such speed from fusion technology. We pushed our engines to their limits," Robert explained. "Every ship in our fleet is operating at maximum safe capacity." The aliens exchanged looks that seemed to convey surprise. The second alien spoke. "Maximum safe capacity. Your vessels can operate at these speeds consistently." "Of course," Jack replied. "That's why we use fusion drives. They're not the most powerful, but they're reliable." The third alien moved forward, its skin shifting to a deeper blue. "Our antimatter drives are failing because we pushed them beyond safe limits. We had no choice. Our worlds were dying. But your technology, though less advanced, might have survived the journey." The irony wasn't lost on anyone. The aliens' more sophisticated engines had failed precisely because of their complexity, while humanity's primitive technology had proven more practical for long-term space travel. The meeting continued for hours as human engineers were briefed on the exact state of the alien fleet. The situation was worse than expected. Over 60 ships had completely dead engines, while others were running on emergency power only. "We'll need to begin with the ships in the worst condition," Robert decided. "Our engineers can start retrofitting them with modified fusion drives immediately." The aliens watched in fascination as human technical teams began their work. Their sophisticated sensors and tools made the process easier, while human engineering principles provided the solutions they needed. As the first day of contact drew to a close, Robert stood with the alien leaders, watching the human fleet positioning itself around their stranded ships. "We did not expect such efficiency," the lead alien admitted. "Our civilizations are older than yours. We thought we had progressed further. Yet here you are, teaching us about reliability and determination." Robert smiled. "Sometimes the simplest solution is the best one. Now let's get your people home." The rescue operation was officially underway, and both species were learning that technological advancement and practical wisdom weren't always the same thing. The retrofitting process began with the most critical cases first. Human engineers, wearing specially designed environmental suits, moved between the massive alien vessels. They worked in teams, each led by an alien technical advisor who helped them understand their ship systems. Inside one of the largest refugee ships, Chief Engineer Bill Brown wiped sweat from his forehead as he studied the alien power core. The chamber was enormous, designed to contain and harness antimatter reactions. Now it sat cold and dark, its complex systems having failed months ago. "The power distribution nodes are compatible," he called out to his team. "But we'll need to modify the cooling systems significantly. These ships weren't designed for the heat our fusion drives generate." The alien engineer, who the humans had nicknamed Blue for their shifting color patterns, moved closer to examine Bill's work. "Your species approaches problems differently," Blue observed. "We would have tried to create better containment. You instead focus on managing the side effects." The work was challenging but rewarding. Human engineers discovered that while alien technology was more advanced, it wasn't always more practical. Their ships had redundant systems for their redundant systems, making repairs incredibly complex. In contrast, human fusion drives were built to be easily maintained and repaired. The aliens watched in amazement as human engineers used simple tools and straightforward solutions to solve problems their own scientists had overcomplicated. "Look here," Bill explained to a group of alien technicians. "Your power grid is like a spider web, beautiful and efficient, but break one strand, and the whole thing fails. We build ours like a tree. Even if some branches die, the core keeps working." The aliens proved to be quick learners. They began to understand the human philosophy of "keep it simple" and started suggesting modifications to their own systems. The collaboration led to innovations neither species would have developed alone. Progress was steady but slow. Each ship required at least 3 days of continuous work to retrofit. With over 300 ships needing attention, time was a constant pressure. The human fleet had brought enough materials to modify every ship, but the question was whether they could complete the work fast enough. "At current pace, we need 4 months to retrofit all ships," Jack reported during a status meeting. "But some of these vessels won't last that long on emergency power." Robert nodded gravely. "We need to speed things up. Any ideas?" The solution came from an unexpected source. One of the alien children, watching the humans work, asked a simple question. "Why don't you teach us to build the engines?" The idea spread quickly. Instead of having human engineers do all the work, they could train alien crews to help with the retrofitting process. Within days, makeshift classrooms were set up across multiple ships, with human engineers teaching alien technicians the principles of fusion drive maintenance and installation. The knowledge transfer went both ways. The aliens shared insights about their technology that would advance human engineering by decades. They showed the humans more efficient ways to handle power distribution and improved methods for radiation shielding. Bill found himself working alongside alien engineers who now understood fusion technology as well as he did. "It's amazing," he told Robert during a break. "They're not just learning the how, but the why. They understand the philosophy behind our engineering choices." The pace of work doubled, then tripled. Ships that had been dark for months began humming with the steady vibration of fusion drives. Each successful retrofit was celebrated by both species, marking another step towards saving the refugee fleet. During one such celebration, Blue approached Bill with what appeared to be a smile. Though with alien facial features, it was hard to be sure. "We thought we needed to make everything perfect," they said. "You showed us that sometimes good enough is better than perfect." The human engineers had feared that the aliens might look down on their less advanced technology. Instead, they found a species eager to learn and adapt, who recognized that advancement wasn't just about having the most sophisticated solution. As the fourth week of retrofitting drew to a close, nearly a quarter of the fleet had been modified. The races were working together seamlessly now, human practical knowledge combining with alien technical sophistication to create something new and better than either had possessed before. But in the distance, unnoticed by the busy crews, a faint disturbance in space was growing larger, approaching the combined fleets with each passing moment. The first warning came from the outermost sensor arrays of the alien fleet. Deep space readings showed a massive disturbance moving faster than anyone had anticipated. The cosmic anomaly that had destroyed the aliens' home systems was approaching. Captain Robert stared at the sensor data in disbelief. "How long?" "At current speed, 3 weeks until it reaches us," Jack replied, his face pale. "We've only retrofitted 30% of their ships." The news spread through both fleets like wildfire. The alien refugees, who had finally begun to feel hope, now faced their worst fear again. The very thing they had fled was catching up to them. In the main engineering bay of the Hope, an emergency meeting brought together the leaders of both species. The alien representative's skin had turned a pale, sickly color, a sign of extreme stress in their species. "We need to evacuate the most vulnerable ships first," Robert suggested, pointing to a holographic display of the fleet. "We can crowd more people onto the vessels that are already retrofitted." The lead alien, their color now a deep gray, shook their head. "Our life support systems are already at maximum capacity. Adding more would doom everyone aboard." Bill, who had been quietly studying the data, suddenly spoke up. "What if we work in parallel? Instead of finishing one ship at a time, we start the process on multiple ships simultaneously." The idea was risky. Working on multiple ships at once meant more chance for errors, but they had no choice. Time was running out. The new plan was put into action immediately. Human engineers split into smaller teams, each paired with trained alien technicians. They would begin the retrofitting process on 20 ships at once, working around the clock in shifts. "It's not just about speed now," Bill explained to his teams. "We need to be perfect on the first try. We don't have time for mistakes." The work became more intense than ever. Engineers moved between ships in a carefully choreographed dance, their movements precise and purposeful. As one team finished installing cooling systems, another would immediately begin power grid modifications. The aliens proved invaluable in this accelerated process. Their natural ability to change skin color became a useful communication tool. They could signal problems or successes to other teams instantly across vast distances. But the anomaly kept coming. Its effects began to be felt even at this distance. Communication systems experienced interference, and the outer edges of both fleets detected strange energy fluctuations. "We're losing time," Jack reported after the first week of accelerated work. "The anomaly is affecting our equipment. Some tools are taking twice as long to calibrate." Robert gathered his officers for a difficult discussion. "We need to consider leaving some ships behind. We might not be able to save everyone." The suggestion was met with immediate resistance from both humans and aliens. A young alien engineer stepped forward, their skin flashing with determined patterns. "Your people came across space to save us," they said. "We cannot abandon our own now. There must be another way." The solution came from an unexpected quarter. The Russian heavy lifters, originally brought to carry supplies, could be modified to actually tow the smaller alien vessels. It wasn't elegant, but it might work. "The structural stress will be enormous," Bill warned. "We've never attempted something like this at these speeds." But they were out of options. As teams continued retrofitting the larger ships, others began adapting the Russian vessels for their new role. The work was dangerous. One miscalculation could tear a ship apart. Time seemed to blur as everyone worked to their absolute limits. Human and alien medical teams treated exhausted crew members, but no one stopped for long. The anomaly's presence could now be seen with the naked eye, a shimming distortion in space that grew larger each day. By the end of the second week, they had managed to retrofit or secure for towing nearly 60% of the fleet. But the anomaly was now only 7 days away, and its effects were getting stronger. Robert stood at his command window, watching the endless stream of workers moving between ships. They had achieved so much, but would it be enough? The race against time had become more desperate than ever, and the fate of millions hung in the balance. The anomaly arrived 3 days earlier than their worst predictions. The combined fleet's outer sensors began failing in cascading patterns as the massive disturbance approached. Its presence was now visible to everyone. A vast, shimmering wall of distorted space that seemed to devour light itself. All ships, Emergency Protocol Alpha. Robert's voice boomed through the fleet's communication channels. Begin immediate evacuation of non-retrofitted vessels. Chaos erupted across the fleet. The Russian towing ships moved into position, their modified tractor beams straining to secure the smaller alien vessels. Dozens of emergency shuttles darted between ships, carrying refugees from the most vulnerable craft to those already retrofitted with fusion drives. In the engine room of a massive alien colony ship, Bill and his team worked frantically to complete their modifications. Sweat poured down their faces as they raced against time. Power coupling at 60%. Bill shouted over the growing interference. "We need another 10 minutes." "We don't have 10 minutes," came Jack's voice over the comm. "The anomaly's affecting the outer ships already. Their hulls are starting to buckle." The situation grew more desperate by the minute. 3 alien ships at the fleet's edge reported complete system failures. Their distress beacons pulsed weakly in the growing darkness. Robert made a decision that would either save them all or doom them to failure. All retrofitted ships moved to form a barrier. "We'll use our fusion drives to create an energy shield. It might buy us enough time." The human fleet, along with the upgraded alien vessels, moved into position. Their fusion drives, pushed to maximum output, created a web of energy that temporarily held back the anomaly's effects. Inside the failing ships, scenes of desperate courage played out. Human engineers refused to abandon their work, even as systems crashed around them. Alien technicians worked alongside them, their skin colors pulsing with determination and fear. 5 minutes. Bill called out, his hands moving faster than he thought possible. "Just give us 5 more minutes." The barrier of ships groaned under the strain. Metal creaked, and warning alarms blared across every vessel. They were buying time, but at a terrible cost. Every ship in the defensive formation was taking damage. "Hull integrity at 40%, Jack reported from the Hope. "We can't hold this position much longer." In that moment, something remarkable happened. The aliens aboard the suffering ships began singing, a haunting, multi-toned harmony that carried through the ship's corridors. It wasn't a song of despair, but one of hope and gratitude. The human crews, hearing this through their comm systems, found new strength. Engineers ignored safety protocols, working with bare hands on hot equipment. Pilots pushed their ships beyond designed limits, holding the line against the encroaching void. Power coupling complete. Bill's triumphant shout came just as the outer barrier began to fail. "Starting fusion sequence now." Similar reports began coming in from other engineering teams. One by one, the remaining ships came alive with the steady pulse of fusion power. The retrofitting teams, their work finally complete, barely had time to secure themselves before emergency maneuvers began. "All ships, full power," Robert commanded. "Break formation and move away from the anomaly. Don't look back, don't slow down. Just go." The combined fleet surged forward as one. Ships that could move under their own power did so, while the Russian towing vessels strained their engines to pull the others. The anomaly seemed to reach for them with tendrils of distorted space, but the fusion drives proved their worth, pushing them just beyond its grasp. As they accelerated to safety, Robert looked at his sensor displays. They had done it. Every ship, every single refugee, had been saved. The cost had been enormous. Nearly every vessel showed significant damage, and many would need major repairs, but they had survived. "Status report," he called out, his voice hoarse from shouting orders. "All ships accounted for," Jack replied, emotion clear in his voice. "Some are badly damaged, but everyone's alive." "We did it, Captain. We actually did it." Behind them, the anomaly continued its relentless advance through space, but its prey had escaped. Human determination, combined with alien courage, had accomplished what neither species could have done alone. The fleet limped away from danger, carrying with it a powerful lesson about the strength found in unity and the courage to never abandon hope. 1 month after their narrow escape from the anomaly, the combined fleet entered Earth's solar system. The sight of the familiar planets brought tears to many human crew members' eyes. For the aliens, it represented something they thought they'd never find again: a home. "Earth Control, this is Captain Robert Harris of the Hope," Robert transmitted as they passed Jupiter's orbit. "Mission accomplished. We're bringing everyone home." The response from Earth was immediate. Cheers and celebrations could be heard in the background of official transmissions. The whole planet had been watching and waiting, hoping for this moment. The fleet moved slowly now, many ships still operating on damaged systems. The Russian towing vessels had never stopped their work, pulling the ships that couldn't make the journey on their own. Their crews were exhausted but proud. As they approached Mars, Bill stood with Blue in the Hope's observation deck, watching the red planet grow larger. "Your people will have to adapt to living on a world again," Bill said. "After so long in space." Blue's skin rippled with colors of hope and anticipation. "We've learned that adaptation is one of our greatest strengths, just like humans." The alien refugees had changed during their journey. Their time working alongside humans had taught them new ways of thinking, of solving problems. They had learned that sometimes the simplest solution was the best one, and that determination could overcome seemingly impossible odds. Earth had changed too. The planet had united in preparation for the arrival of millions of refugees. New cities were under construction, designed to accommodate the environmental needs of 3 different species. The greatest engineering project in human history was nearly complete. "Landing operations will take 3 weeks," Robert announced to the combined fleet. "Earth has designated safe zones for each ship. We'll bring you down in groups, making sure everyone is settled properly." The first ships began their descent through Earth's atmosphere 2 days later. The sight of massive alien vessels, escorted by human ships, captured the world's imagination. News broadcasts showed crowds gathering to watch, their faces filled with wonder. In the United Nations Assembly, representatives of Earth's nations stood together as the alien leaders made their first address to their new home world. "You came for us when we were lost," the lead alien spoke, their skin shimmering with emotion. "You risked everything to save not just our lives, but our entire civilizations. We offer in return not just our gratitude, but our commitment to building a future together." The integration of the refugee species into Earth's society began immediately. Alien engineers worked alongside humans, combining their advanced theoretical knowledge with humanity's practical experience. New technologies emerged from this collaboration, benefiting both the original inhabitants and the newcomers. The refugee ships, too damaged for space travel, were not abandoned. Instead, they were carefully grounded and converted into the foundations of the new cities. Their massive hulls, designed to protect against the dangers of space, now served as the framework for communities where all species could live together. Bill found himself leading a team of human and alien engineers working to develop new energy systems that combine the best of both civilizations' technologies. "It's not about whose technology is better," he often said. It's about finding the right tool for the job. Robert watched from the Hope's Bridge as the last refugee ship made its landing. The rescue mission was officially over, but its impact would echo through human history forever. "What are you thinking, Captain?" Jack asked, standing beside him. "I'm thinking about how we almost didn't answer that distress call," Robert replied. "How close we came to missing this moment. The aliens brought with them knowledge, technology, and perspectives that humanity had never imagined. But more importantly, they brought proof that different species could work together, learn from each other, and build something greater than they could achieve alone." As the sun set on this new chapter of human history, the lights of the new combined cities began to shine across Earth's surface. From space, they formed patterns never seen before, the first visible signs of a civilization that was no longer just human, but something more. The universe, it seemed, had more to teach them all, and together, they were ready to learn.